500 people surround the Creede jailhouse, their voices rising, demanding, angry. Deputy Vernon Pike stands on the steps, hand on his weapon, flanked by 3 lawmen who are starting to realize they've been lied to. Inside the jail, locked in a cell he doesn't deserve to be in, Jesse Kincaid grips the iron bars and watches a town tear itself apart over his innocence. Sarah Morgan sits on the jailhouse steps, refusing to move despite the danger. If violence comes, she'll be the first to face it. Old Man Brennan steps forward from the crowd, 73 years old, beloved by everyone, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Vernon, this has gone far enough. Let the boy out." Pike's hand tightens on his gun, his face red, his control slipping, 500 people calling his authority into question, 500 people who refuse to accept his version of justice. And in that moment, with everything falling apart around him, Vernon Pike makes a decision that changes everything. He draws his weapon. To understand how a deputy could lose control so completely, how an entire town could turn against the law, and how an innocent man ended up in chains, we need to go back 3 days, to when the Dunbar house burned and Vernon Pike saw an opportunity he'd been waiting years for. Creede, Colorado, in 1892, is a town that grew too fast for its own good. Silver brought people flooding into these mountains. Thousands of them, miners and merchants, gamblers and preachers, families hoping to strike it rich and drifters hoping to disappear. The town sits in a narrow canyon, buildings pressed together like they're trying to keep warm. When the silver runs out, and everyone knows it will eventually, Creede will empty just as fast as it filled. But for now, it's alive, crowded, loud, the kind of place where fortunes are made and lost in a single card game. Sheriff Wade has kept order here for 3 years. Fair but firm. Respected by everyone, even the people he's arrested. When he left 4 days ago to testify at a trial in Denver, he put his deputy in charge without hesitation. That was his first mistake. Vernon Pike is 28 years old and has been deputy for 2 years. He does his job well enough, patrols on time, files reports properly, doesn't drink on duty, but there's something about him that people don't trust. A meanness that lives just beneath the surface, a resentment that colors everything he does. He wanted to be sheriff, expected it even. But when the position opened 3 years ago, the town council chose Wade instead, an outsider, someone with actual experience. Pike has never forgiven them for that, and he's never forgiven Jesse Kincaid for being everything Pike isn't. Jesse is 24, born in Creede before it had a name, back when it was just a mining camp with more hope than sense. His father died in a cave-in when Jesse was 12. His mother worked herself to exhaustion keeping the family fed. Jesse grew up knowing what it meant to struggle. 6 months ago, 3 men tried to rob the Creede Bank in broad daylight. They'd gotten as far as the vault when Jesse, who happened to be making a deposit, tackled the first gunman. The fight spilled into the street. Shots fired. Jesse took a bullet in the shoulder but managed to disarm 2 of the robbers before Sheriff Wade arrived and arrested all 3. Jesse saved 4 people that day, including Sarah Morgan, the school teacher, who'd been in the bank depositing the school fund. The town made Jesse a hero, threw him a party, gave him a reward he tried to refuse, called him brave and selfless and everything a man should be. Vernon Pike watched all of it and hated every second. Because Sarah Morgan, the woman Pike has wanted for 2 years, the woman who smiles politely at him but never looks at him the way Pike wants to be looked at, started looking at Jesse Kincaid like he hung the moon. And 6 months of watching them together, watching Sarah laugh at Jesse's jokes and touch his arm when she talks to him and light up when he walks into a room, has turned Pike's resentment into something darker, something that's been waiting for an opportunity. The Dunbar house burns at midnight. It starts in the back bedroom where 9-year-old Billy Dunbar had been playing with his father's lantern earlier that evening. Fascinated by the flame, trying to see how low he could turn the wick before it went out. His mother had told him to put it away. He'd meant to, but he'd left it on the dresser, still burning, the wick turned up higher than it should be. The curtains catch first, then the wooden walls. By the time the family wakes, smoke is already filling the house. They get out, all of them, father, mother, Billy, and his 2 younger sisters. They stand in the street in their nightclothes watching their home burn. Neighbors form bucket lines, but it's too late. The house is gone before dawn. No one dies. No one is even injured beyond some smoke in their lungs and terror in their hearts. But Vernon Pike, watching the fire from across the street, sees something else. He sees an opportunity. Pike arrests Jesse at dawn before most of the town is awake. He walks to the small house Jesse rents at the edge of town and pounds on the door until Jesse answers, confused and still half asleep. "Jesse Kincaid, you're under arrest for arson." Jesse stares at him. "What?" "The Dunbar house. You burned it down last night. You're coming with me." "I didn't, Vernon. I was here all night. I didn't do anything." Pike's smile is cold. "Got witnesses saying otherwise. Now you can come peaceful or I can make this difficult." Jesse's mind races. The Dunbar house burned? When? Why would Pike think he had anything to do with it? "What witnesses?" "Vernon, this is crazy. I didn't." Pike draws his weapon. "I said you're coming with me." Jesse raises his hands slowly. He could fight. He's stronger than Pike, everyone knows it. But fighting a deputy is assaulting an officer. That's a hanging offense in some territories. All right, but you're making a mistake." "Only mistake I'm making is not doing this sooner." Pike claps the irons on him, tight enough to hurt, and as they walk through the waking streets toward the jail, Pike makes sure everyone sees. Makes sure everyone knows that Jesse Kincaid, local hero, is being arrested for burning down a family's home. By the time they reach the jail, a crowd is already forming. Confused, angry, demanding to know what's happening. Pike shoves Jesse into a cell and locks it with more force than necessary. Then he steps back out onto the street to address the growing crowd. "Jesse Kincaid has been arrested for the arson of the Dunbar residence last night. Evidence places him at the scene. He's being held until Sheriff Wade returns to oversee a proper trial." "What evidence?" someone shouts. "That's part of an ongoing investigation." "Jesse didn't do it," another voice. "He was—" "If you have information relevant to the case, you can provide it in an official statement. Otherwise, disperse. The law has been upheld." But the crowd doesn't disperse. It grows. By noon, word has spread through every corner of Creede. Jesse Kincaid arrested. For arson, based on evidence that no one has seen, by a deputy that no one trusts. Sarah arrives at the jail within an hour of hearing the news. She pushes through the crowd, her face pale but determined, and confronts Pike directly. "Vernon, you need to let him go. Jesse was with me last night, all night. We were at my house talking until well past midnight. He couldn't have had anything to do with that fire." Pike's expression doesn't change. "That's not possible, Miss Morgan." Multiple witnesses place him at the scene. "What witnesses?" "Vernon, I'm telling you. Are you saying you were alone with an unmarried man late at night? In your home?" Pike's voice carries just enough judgment to make Sarah's face flush. "Because that's a serious admission, Miss Morgan, especially for a schoolteacher." Sarah's jaw tightens. "I'm saying Jesse Kincaid is innocent, and you know it. What I know is the law, and the law says he stays in that cell until Sheriff Wade returns." Sarah stares at him, and for the first time, she sees what Jesse has always seen: the meanness, the jealousy, the spite. "This is about me, isn't it? About us." Pike's mask slips for just a second, long enough for Sarah to see the truth in his eyes. "This is about justice, Miss Morgan. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a town to protect." He turns his back on her and walks inside, leaving Sarah standing in the street with the horrible certainty that Vernon Pike has just used his badge to settle a personal score. And there's nothing she can do to stop him. By evening, the crowd outside the jail has swelled to over 200 people. Miners who worked with Jesse's father, merchants who know Jesse's character, families whose children Sarah teaches, people who were in the bank 6 months ago when Jesse stopped those robbers. They're not violent, not yet, but they're angry, and they're not leaving. Jesse sits in his cell, listening to the voices outside, hearing his name, hearing people defend him. It should bring relief. Instead, it makes everything worse, because he knows Pike, knows how the deputy thinks, and Jesse understands with growing dread that Pike isn't going to back down. Can't back down. Not without losing face, not without admitting he made a mistake, and Vernon Pike would rather burn the whole town down than admit he was wrong. Old Man Brennan brings food to the jail at sunset. He's 73 years old, runs the general store, and has known Jesse since the boy was born. Pike tries to turn him away. Prisoner gets standard rations. Jesse's not a prisoner, Vernon. He's innocent, and you know it. Then a jury will decide that. Sheriff Wade needs to decide that. And until he gets back, you're keeping an innocent man locked up based on nothing but spite. Pike's hand moves to his gun, not drawing, just resting there, a threat. You calling me a liar, old man? Brennan meets his gaze steadily. I'm calling you a fool. And if you don't let that boy out, this town's going to remind you who actually runs things around here. He sets the food down on Pike's desk and walks out, leaving the deputy standing alone in the office with rage building in his chest like steam in a boiler. Outside, the crowd keeps growing through the night and into the next morning. The second day breaks with 500 people surrounding the jail. They've come from Creede and from the mining camps in the hills, from neighboring settlements. Word spread overnight. Jesse Kincaid arrested for arson he didn't commit, held by a deputy with a grudge. No evidence, no witnesses, just one man's word against everyone who knows better. Pike stands at the window, watching them gather, and feels something close to panic. He'd expected people to grumble, to complain, but he'd thought they'd accept it, accept his authority. He hadn't expected this. 3 deputies from nearby towns arrived overnight, summoned by Pike with urgent telegrams claiming a dangerous prisoner and potential unrest. He'd lied, of course, told them Jesse was violent, that he'd threatened people, that the crowd outside was a mob preparing to break him out by force. The visiting deputies, men Pike barely knows, see only what Pike shows them. An angry crowd, a locked cell, a deputy trying to maintain order. They position themselves strategically, rifles ready, prepared to defend the jail against what they've been told is a violent mob, but the crowd isn't violent. Not yet. They're just done accepting Pike's version of justice. "Let him out," someone shouts. "Jesse didn't do it." "Where's your evidence, Pike?" The deputy steps outside, flanked by the 3 visiting lawmen. He raises his hands, calling for silence. The crowd quiets, but barely. Jesse Kincaid remains in custody pending Sheriff Wade's return. That's the law. If you interfere with that law, you'll be arrested for obstruction. What law? Sarah pushes her way to the front of the crowd. You arrested him without cause, without evidence. We all know why you really did this, Vernon. Pike's face goes red. What I did was my duty, Miss Morgan, and I'd advise you to watch your accusations. Or what? You'll arrest me too? The crowd murmurs approval. Emboldened, Old Man Brennan steps forward, his aged frame somehow commanding respect even among 500 people. Vernon, this has gone far enough. Let the boy out. Wait for Wade to come back and sort this properly. You've made your point. Don't make it worse. The only people making this worse are you, Pike snaps, interfering with the law. Threatening an officer. I could arrest every one of you for conspiracy. Then do it, someone shouts from the back. Arrest all of us. The crowd surges forward, not attacking, just pressing closer. The visiting deputies raise their rifles, uncertain, and Pike, feeling control slipping away, feeling 500 people calling his authority into question, draws his weapon and fires. The shot cracks through the canyon like thunder. Old Man Brennan stumbles backward, clutching his side, blood seeping between his fingers. He looks down at himself, confused, then up at Pike with an expression of pure betrayal. Pike stares at his gun, at the old man, at the crowd's faces shifting from anger to horror. He moved. I didn't mean... But his words are drowned by the roar of 500 voices erupting at once, not with anger now, with rage. The crowd surges forward like a wave. The visiting deputies, realizing too late that they've been lied to, lower their weapons and step back. They want no part of this. This isn't law enforcement. This is something uglier. Pike stumbles backward into the jail, slamming the door and barring it. His hands shake as he loads more rounds into his weapon. Outside, fists pound on the door, voices demanding justice, demanding Jesse's release, demanding Pike's head. Inside his cell, Jesse grips the bars, watching Pike fall apart, and knows with terrible certainty that people are going to die unless someone stops this. And Sheriff Wade is still a day away. The standoff lasts through the night. Old Man Brennan survives. The bullet caught his side, painful but not fatal. Doc Henley patches him up right there in the street while 500 people watch and swear that Vernon Pike will answer for what he's done. Pike remains barricaded in the jail. The visiting deputies, realizing they've been manipulated, quietly leave town before dawn. They want no association with what's happened here. Pike is alone now. Just him, Jesse in the cell, and a mob that's rapidly losing patience. Sarah sits on the jailhouse steps, refusing to leave despite the danger. If violence comes, she's determined to be between Pike and Jesse, to protect the man she loves even if it costs her everything. Inside, Pike paces like a caged animal. He knows he's lost, knows he went too far, knows that even if Sheriff Wade arrives and backs his story, the town will never forgive him for shooting Old Man Brennan. But admitting defeat means admitting he was wrong, means humiliation, means losing everything he's worked for. So he paces and he plans and he tells himself there's still a way out of this. Jesse watches him through the bars. "Vernon, let me go. Just open the door and let me walk out. Tell them you made a mistake. People will understand." "Shut up. You shot an old man, a man everyone loves. If you don't fix this now—" "I said shut up." Pike whirls on him, weapon raised. "This is your fault. All of it. If you hadn't." He can't even finish the thought, because the truth is too ugly to speak aloud. That he arrested an innocent man out of jealousy, that he shot a beloved elder because he couldn't control a crowd, that every decision he's made since Sheriff Wade left has been about pride and spite instead of justice. Outside, the crowd keeps vigil, waiting, watching, 500 people who refuse to let this stand. On the third morning, dawn breaks different. Sheriff Wade rides into Creede at sunrise. Wade sees the crowd first. 500 people surrounding his jail, and his gut drops. He spurs his horse forward, pushing through the throng, demanding to know what's happened. Sarah sees him and nearly collapses with relief. "Sheriff!" Thank God. Pike arrested Jesse for the Dunbar fire. No evidence, no cause. Then he shot Old Man Brennan when we demanded Jesse's release. Wade's face goes hard. He dismounts and pushes through to the jail door, pounding on it. "Pike! Open up! It's Wade!" Inside, Pike hears the sheriff's voice and feels his world crumbling. Wade will ask questions, will demand answers, will see through every lie Pike has constructed. But he unlocks the door anyway. What choice does he have? Wade steps inside, taking in Pike's disheveled appearance, the smell of fear sweat, Jesse sitting calmly in the cell. "Talk. Now." Pike tries to explain. The fire, the arrest, Jesse's guilt that Pike is certain of even if he can't prove it, the crowd threatening violence, Old Man Brennan moving suddenly, the gun going off accidentally. Wade listens without expression. Then he turns to Jesse. "What's your side?" "I didn't burn anything, Sheriff. I was with Sarah all night. Pike arrested me without evidence because—" Jesse stops, not wanting to make it worse. "Because why?" "Because he's jealous," Sarah says from the doorway. "Because Jesse and I are courting and Vernon can't stand it." Wade looks at Pike, sees the truth written all over his deputy's face. "Jesus, Vernon. Tell me you didn't." Pike says nothing. Wade walks to the Dunbar house ruins. The family is staying with neighbors, traumatized but alive. He examines what's left of the structure, asks questions, listens. Then he finds it. In the rubble of Billy's bedroom, a lantern, melted and twisted, but recognizable. He brings Billy Dunbar to the site. The boy takes one look at the lantern and bursts into tears. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was playing with it, and Mama told me to put it away, but I forgot, and I left it burning, and I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to." His mother holds him while he sobs out the truth. It was an accident. A terrible accident. No one's fault but a 9-year-old boy playing with something dangerous and forgetting to put it away. Wade returns to the jail with Billy and his mother. The crowd parts for them silently. Inside, Wade unlocks Jesse's cell. "You're free. Never should have been here in the first place." Jesse steps out, and Sarah runs to him, throwing her arms around him while 500 people cheer. Wade turns to Pike. His voice is quiet, but carries the weight of absolute authority. "You're done. Badge on the desk. Be out of Creede by sundown." Pike's face goes white. "Sheriff, You arrested an innocent man out of spite. You lied to bring in deputies from other towns. You shot an unarmed civilian. You're lucky I'm not arresting you myself." Wade's eyes are hard as stone. "Sundown, Vernon. And if I ever hear about you wearing a badge anywhere in this territory, I'll make sure every lawman from here to Denver knows exactly what you did." Pike sets his badge on the desk with shaking hands. He looks at Jesse, at Sarah, at Sheriff Wade, sees no sympathy anywhere. He walks out into the bright morning sun, past 500 people who turn their backs on him as he passes. The ultimate humiliation. Not violence, just contempt. Vernon Pike rides out of Creede an hour later with everything he owns tied to his saddle. No one watches him go. No one cares. 3 weeks later, life in Creede has returned to normal. The Dunbars are rebuilding with help from the whole town. Billy is in counseling with the preacher, learning to forgive himself. Old Man Brennan is back at his store, moving slower but alive and joking that it takes more than Vernon Pike to kill him. Jesse and Sarah are officially courting. Everyone knows, everyone approves, and Sheriff Wade has offered Jesse a job. "Not deputy," Wade clarifies over coffee at the hotel. "Not yet. But you've got good instincts. You kept your head when Pike lost his, and this town trusts you." Jesse considers it. He'd never thought about law enforcement before, but the last few weeks have shown him something, that justice matters, that someone has to stand between the law and those who twist it for their own purposes. "I'll think about it," Jesse says. Wade nods. "That's all I'm asking." 6 months later, Jesse Kincaid pins on a deputy's badge. Not Pike's old badge. Wade had that one melted down, a new one, earned properly. On his first day, an old miner stops him on the street. "You'll make a fine lawman, son. Your father would be proud." Jesse thinks about his father, about the choices that led him here, about a deputy who let jealousy poison everything he touched, and he makes himself a promise to never let the badge become more important than the people he's meant to serve. To remember that the law is a tool for justice, not a weapon for spite, to be better than Vernon Pike ever was. If you enjoyed this story of courage and honor on the frontier, click that subscribe button now. We have dozens more tales of unlikely heroes, dangerous choices, and life-changing decisions waiting for you. Ready for another unforgettable story? Click the video on your screen right now to watch a tale of survival and justice that will stay with you long after it ends. Don't miss it.